Hillary.
Unity, unity, unity.
Hillary.
The Bernie, can I just say, to the Bernie or bust people, you're being ridiculous. He told us to stretch, so I figured I'd add that. They made me cut off my speech, and now we have to stretch.
That, of course, was comedian Sarah Silverman, along with Senator Al Franken. Interestingly, they're talking to some of the Bernie Sanders delegates and provoking even more reaction, I would say, based on what we saw. Joining us now to talk about that, Nomiki Konst, a CBSN political contributor, also a Bernie Sanders delegate. You were down there.
Yeah.
What
Oh my
happened?
I saw her.
Yes, I was like,
She was front and center.
Front and center. She threw away her Bernie sign and came running
I
there.
did. And then I was like,
What was that like when she was
Oh my
doing
gosh.
that?
Well, you know, there's a lot of tension in there, and there's tension there for a reason. I think that these are people who worked really hard. They raised a lot of money to come here. It costs a lot of money to come here for an average person. And usually, you know, I'm going to be frank here, the DNC supports a lot of people who have money, who bundle, and so there's an interesting dynamic in elected officials who are part of the establishment. So, you know, these are people who've invested their lives, and they want to feel heard. They want to feel like they're being acknowledged. They want their concerns to be, acknowledged, essentially. And I think that this has been after a few days of rough spots where even though we got pretty far on the platform, it wasn't perfect. Rules Committee was not perfect. And a lot of these speakers and the lineup at the DNC is very Hillary heavy. And we got 46% of the vote. So I think that attacking them rather than saying, you know, maybe Hillary should be reaching out a little bit more, she should be getting down on the ground, listening to what their concerns are, giving them a little bit more. The reality is they're not getting a lot.
You don't think that this was weighted towards Bernie Sanders supporters tonight? I mean, you had Keith Ellison.
You had 5 people.
Cory Booker.
You had 5 people.
And then they added Ben Jealous.
I mean, but those were all the headliners.
Cory Booker's not a Bernie person. Are you kidding? Cory Booker has more Wall Street money than anybody.
Well, that's true. He's from New Jersey. But I mean, but he's very progressive. But he's very progressive in a lot of other ways. But you had Elizabeth Warren.
Well, look
you had
what Reince
Bernie
Priebus
Sanders
just
himself.
tweeted. So this felt more like a convention for Sanders than for Clinton, with the convention floor descending into chaos most of the day. That's not what we saw. I mean, to be fair, we didn't see it chaos for most of the day, but there was clearly some dissent on the floor. They brought in 2 pinch hitters at one point: Ben Jealous, the former CEO of the NAACP, and also state senator from Maine. Her name escapes me now, but she was, I actually have Diane Russell, exactly, who came in and delivered one of the great, I thought, early speeches of the day, saying, look, we are disappointed, we're sad that Senator Sanders is not the one who got the nomination, but I'm going to do everything I can to help elect Hillary Clinton. Is that the sentiment you think, Nomi, going forward, or are we still going to see some of the things that we saw earlier this morning?
A lot of work they've got to do, and it's not going to be on surrogates. It's not going to be on Bernie Sanders. I mean, listen, they had every surrogate come out that you could possibly think of and support Hillary Clinton. It is Bernie Sanders. If he's not getting these people, it means the burden has to be on the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I'll tell you straight up, there wasn't a lot of unity in there. They talked about unity, but on the floor, there were some disparaging remarks. Some work has to be done, and I put that on Hillary Clinton. She's got to earn these people's votes, because if they don't come out, then we can't defeat Donald Trump. And I want to defeat Donald Trump, but you know, we're doing what we can right now.
But why would we had some people, we heard some people even from up here, not a lot to be fair, but there were some people that even shouted out at one point, you know, lock her up. I mean, is that what you want?
Those are a few people. I think they're just really
But why would they even follow that line?
Because people are frustrated. They, you know, they were telling people to take their signs down, their Bernie Sanders signs down. People made homemade signs in the front row, and they were told not to put them up, and that they could only hold Hillary Clinton's signs. It's the little things like this, and that's what ticks people off. You know, I heard people yelled at in the hall. They're trying to keep this as controlled as possible, the DNC. It's almost like they're trying to hold on to their power a little bit more. All I'm saying is we can, as a group, work together to defeat Donald Trump, but it can't just be all on the Bernie Sanders leaders. It can't be through symbolism. It actually has to be through action. And we're not seeing that. And I was part of the platform committee. I'm very involved in this process, and there's just got to be a little bit more work done on their side.
So interestingly, to that point, the notion of the Hillary Clinton campaign trying to reach out, we saw the distribution essentially en masse of these Bernie signs, right? These were sort of officially sanctioned. Here's,
Here's one.
One of the signs. There was a sense that they wanted to afford the Sanders campaign and Senator Sanders some respect.
Well, he was speaking.
But was that received in that way, in any way, shape, or form? Or what was the feeling?
I mean, again, it's how you look at it. This is pretty much half the party. So it's not like they give it to us. It's that we are a part of the party. And so our voices should be heard. You know, he got Monday night, the lowest rated night, with 3 progressive speakers stacked at the beginning of the night. He got prime time. That's fantastic. But the next 4 nights are all Hillary speakers. You know, we don't have any leadership positions. We are 46% of the party. The DNC is almost entirely made up of Hillary Clinton supporters. You know, we didn't get superdelegates. We got a commission to talk about superdelegates. You know, where do ideas go to die? Commissions. So, you know, there's stuff that they have to do concretely. They've got to clean up the DNC because this is how we defeat Donald Trump. You know, the polls right now, that's not Bernie Sanders' fault. That is Hillary Clinton's obligation to boost those polls up. And she's got to do the work. She's got to get out there and speak to these people and understand it's about issues that concern them. These are issue voters. They're not identity politics voters. It's not the 90s anymore. You can't just slap up a guy who speaks Spanish and expect to get a Latino vote.
And you have to remember that a lot of these voters, you know, already had this latent frustration throughout the primary process because they felt like their candidate was not being treated the same by the DNC as Hillary Clinton. And, you know, all those sort of bad feelings kind of were lingering. And then suddenly came back again on Friday because all of these emails were leaked. And, there's no proof in those emails of sort of massive collusion against Bernie Sanders, but it does show DNC officials, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz herself, disparaging Bernie Sanders, his campaign manager. And so all these bad feelings and all these fears that perhaps they weren't treated fairly all came rushing back, and those feelings are now very raw.
Mm-hmm. And so, Nomi, when you say that there needs to be more outreach from the Hillary Clinton campaign, for viewers who are watching this and maybe are not as familiar with the convention, the intricacies of a convention, does that mean here this week, or does that mean over the next couple of weeks? Or,
both.
So what could they do this week?
I mean, it would be great for them to meet with some of the delegations, come out and talk to them, maybe some of the campaign staff or some of the campaign leaders, and listen to their concerns. Go on a listening tour. Remember when Hillary Clinton went on a listening tour across New York State when she was running for Senate? She needs to do that with the Bernie people because there's something missing. They're not feeling what they're feeling. It's a little bit tone deaf, to be honest. And I want to defeat Donald Trump, and I can only advise people to go that way. But you can't put the blame on people who are hurting. They're hurting right now, and they're looking for answers.
What do you think the right balance is between giving those Bernie Sanders voters everything that you say that they want and winning the election by trying to reach out as well to independent voters who are, maybe turned off by some of the progressive policies that Bernie Sanders want and his supporters want to see? So
it's actually interesting. This is a weird year. TPP, for instance, they could win. She could win if she went out against TPP, those Rust Belt white voters, right? That's something that Democrats almost are unanimously against.
Nomi, we have to stop for just 1 second because we only have about 2 minutes left in our show. We want to just quickly talk about what we're expecting to see tomorrow.
Bill
Clinton is the headliner.
Just saw him in the hall, by the way.
He's, really?
Yeah,
on
he's
his
just
way
out in the hall, yeah.
He's known to give a stem winder.
Just a few, and there he was today, taking it all in.
There'll also be that roll call, the roll call, right? Bernie Sanders referenced that, right? He wants to hear his delegates, and this is going to be an important thing for him.
That's right, and this is something that they decided to do to give those Bernie Sanders voters the respect and allow them to show that they were for him in large numbers. So they're going to do this state by state.
And just so people understand the negotiation there, during the Rules Committee and the Platform Committee, they had minority reports, which would have allowed a vote. And Bernie Sanders decided not to do that because he didn't want a floor fight. So this is a compromise.
All right. This was great. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Not as funny. I'm sorry.
No, but there's some serious things we need to talk about. We needed to know what exactly people were feeling down there. So, Nomi, thank you so much for doing that.